In our lifetimes, we have seen the world that has shifted, and it's changed. And change is scary, but change is inherently good. Change renews and cleanses the old. Change creates new realities and new opportunities. And in adapting to what we see in front of us, we come to know ourselves and enjoy a freedom that knows no bounds. As a teenager, I was lucky to have Dave Welch as my youth leader. I was also lucky to have a pretty expressive and excitable group of young people to call my brothers and sisters. A quick glance on Facebook tells me we have Goldman Sachs traders, rock stars, we have lawyers and engineers, civil servants, we have social entrepreneurs, we have a myriad of different careers and lifestyles that people have chosen. We've got representatives of our youth group living in Oman, Uganda, France, the Gambia, Australia, and here in New York City. Growing up, we realised that we were part of a new generation, a generation with different parameters, of different difficulties and different opportunities. We learned about this globalisation phenomenon in school and thought it meant that we could eat a Big Mac despite heralding from the village of Shackleford. We heard that this internet thing connected people and figured that was an opportunity for us to talk on MSN Messenger without our parents seeing the phone bill. We saw the opportunities to travel and figured this meant we could get drunk on a beach in Thailand without fear of discovery. We saw social networks, used it to decide whether it was really okay to ask that girl out or not, or if she had a boyfriend. We saw the United Nations and figured such a global force for peace could change the entire world without us needing to change a thing in our own lives. We saw our Earth warming up and figured the sheer scale should paralyse from taking action. Surely only China and the USA could halt this impending disaster. We saw that there were so many faces of God across the cultures and figured that this disproved any type of God, so we were probably best off without committing to anyone in particular. After 2008, we saw that the systems we had grown up with were faulty. The systems that had served our baby boomer parents so well were creaking at the seams, and levels of abuse mounted as human desires, needs and greeds irreparably damaged the very foundations that made their dreams all possible. Our futures focused on disposable income over disposable time, on securing a lifestyle that we've been told is desirable, and yet we look around and it doesn't feel desirable. It feels forced and scary, and it doesn't feel like it's in keeping with our soul. The good degree, stable job, mortgage, 2 kids, 2 cars, and a nice pension paradigm hasn't just shifted, it's become obsolete. It no longer delivers the standard of living that we see as possible. It no longer inspires but strikes fear. To own my own property, I need to live with 30 years of debt. But before that, I have to save up enough to simply earn the opportunity to be allotted my share of our global debt through a house deposit. I need to get a degree so that I can learn what it's like to build up some debts before I'm even out of my teens. But it allows me to work every day from 8 to 6 so that I can live for the weekend and that I can be sat at a desk in an office devoid of joy as we all slave away to ensure that we can stay in that one place all our lives on the vague notion that one day we might have enough tucked away to allow us to live a little. Is this not a noose around my neck that stifles imagination, discourages me from being creative and taking a risk? Is this not forcing me down the path where I cannot express the person that I am and the potential that I have? Our generation not only won't stand for this, we simply can't stand for it. But where so many see this generation as one that has been robbed from by those that have gone before, the truth is that we really now have a myriad of opportunities to make better the ills of the past, and the freedom to change, to take advantage of the world that we're inheriting. The normalcy bias states that in times of uncertainty we stick to what we know, even when it's the wrong choice. We stick to debt, we stick to borders, constraints. We stick to the notion that church is a place rather than a community, a living faith. But you see, society, the economy and the climate are changing right now. And if we stick to what we know, we will not adapt, we will not grow, and we will not find our purpose. And we will ultimately fail. I remember as a child always looking at my future life with such fear. Nothing seemed to feel right. I didn't feel like I fitted in. I was always restless, always struggling to find myself, and nothing seemed to make sense. I was lucky enough to have a youth leader who gave us the space in our lives to explore this fear, to experiment, to find answers. Where my school constrained me and forced me into a mould and made me scared of the future, my youth group encouraged me to find out who I was. They encouraged me to take risks, whether that was walking around barefoot for an entire summer or speaking in tongues. They encouraged stupid ideas like going up on stage and singing the blues a cappella at a hip-hop gig at Brixton Academy, or setting up a music festival on a farm because, bluntly, we couldn't get served booze out in Guildford town, so it seemed like a good idea to get drunk in a field. Those formative years created the habits that changed lives. I've never stopped experimenting, be it with who I am, how I act, or how I define myself. Because it turns out the world is very forgiving, and it's very loving. It doesn't eat you up and spit you out. That's simply not true. The world revels in endeavour attempted and picks you up from the endeavour failed. Strangers are just friends waiting to happen, and failing is just a daily occurrence that teaches us lessons with which to change the world. But the problem is the new paradigm needs shapers, needs risk takers, needs leaders. It needs our generation to not just accept the changes, but to show how your life can be home to true happiness, a purpose and a peace within yourself. You see, business doesn't have to be greedy. It can be a force for good, it can share. Politics doesn't have to be dishonest, it can shine light for all our lives. Religion doesn't have to be destructive, it can build a purpose-filled future. You don't have to follow the well-trodden path, you can be your own and you can be the change. Today I'm in New York, tomorrow I fly to Colombia, then Miami. After that, I'm back in Europe, who knows where then. Since this time last year, I've stayed in France, China, North Korea, Uganda, Morocco, Nepal, Colombia and Guatemala. I'm following my spirit, listening to God's voice to find my purpose and structuring my life around what gives me peace now, not what might give me security later. When we were teenagers, we defined success in our lives as having the ability to be airdropped into any country in the world, being able to use our skills combined with local nuances and the things you pick up and learn and the stories you hear to create social business out of nothing, but our desire to see opportunity and how to adapt to it. And it was only recently I realised that dream we had when we were 17 years old is now a reality. My favourite thing in the world is to run. It's my worship, and I feel God when I run, and I connect with Him in a way that I don't at any other time, and I honour Him with the body that He's given me. It thrills me to see others empowered, to see communities rise up, to see individuals realise that they can shape their own lives and they truly can leave the world a better place than where they found it. I love to explore cultures, to test out my business brain daily, to meet amazing and humble people, and I love it when people thank me for helping them on their path. So I set up a company that sets up impact social marathons. We tackle the UN goals for sustainable development through running. If I was to rewrite the words of my favourite things, I'd be describing what I do every single day, travelling, getting outdoors, camping, running, volunteering, doing business, but business done right. Business that is inspiring, sharing, opening, and tackling the massive problems we face in the world today. We're creating a borderless community that shares common values and will not accept being told that things aren't possible. It's kind of already there in the church. But through all this, I feel God's purpose in a way that I never did whilst working in finance. I loved my colleagues and I enjoyed my work, I enjoyed the atmosphere, but my soul wasn't singing. But now it does. Sometimes out of tune, sometimes in its own rhythm, but it sings nonetheless. Rather than this generation being victims of the previous generation's mistakes, we're actually liberated to choose our own future. We have more chances to explore our world and explore ourselves. We are no longer wedded to one career with a linear progression. We can find our passions. We are no longer needed to be present in the office every single day. We can fly to any country in the world and work from there. The other week, I tuned into a conference call from a boat in the middle of an 85,000-year-old volcanic lake in Guatemala. This is the new reality. The opportunity is there, but there are so many How do we know which one is right without freaking out and turning back into what seemingly is a haven where our inner what if to be quietened and replaced by that stern if only? That's a huge problem facing the youth of this generation. What do we do with so much opportunity? Well, here's the good news. We can and will adapt to this new paradigm. Right now, our schooling leads to more tests, more stress, and more fear. So it's an amazing chance for youth workers to make the truth so painfully obvious that there is no other option but to adapt the practices of this society that not only show off the opportunities, but help them to find their purpose within it. It is the role of the youth workers to stand up against the monotonous standardisation and inspire individual risk-taking, creativity, and exploration of themselves. Create an environment where it's safe to experiment, safe to fail, safe to be unashamedly you. Our generation is crying out for examples, for leaders, those guys that are out there shaping the new paradigm rather than longing for what has been and what has passed. Here's some more good news. God already lives without boundaries. God was the original entrepreneur who took a risk. He created everything out of nothing. God already knows the outcome of what if. God already lives without fear, without constraints, and his creative spark can be seen all around us. And God wants us to go out there, to live our potential. He wants us arriving in heaven, having multiplied our talents, and he wants to say to us, well done, my good and my faithful servant. And here's the best news of all. You're already enough. You have nothing to prove. To yourself, to your friends, to family, nothing to prove to God. If you don't want to make changes, you're enough. If you spend the rest of your life experimenting with who you are and failing, you're enough. If you make a decision today that changes the entire world forever, you are enough. Nothing more and nothing less. I used to feel that this gave me an excuse not to try. It demoralised me. But today I see it as the total opposite. You see, because you're already enough, why on earth would you not go out and go for broke and take that risk? You've got nothing left to prove, so just go hell for leather and be unashamedly you. The worst case scenario is that you end up in the valley, on your back, having failed, hurting, looking up at that distant mountaintop and hating where you're at. And guess what? You'll still be enough. Furthermore, look to your side and we're all there. Your community, our community, God's community, that crosses borders, crosses cultures, crosses faith, and simply revels in your humanity. God's community is there to offer a hand, put you back on the feet, celebrate the experience you've just had, and begin that fearless walk through the valley, up those mountain passes again to the mountain top to look at that beautiful view. And in the end, that's the only view that really matters. The one at the mountain top with God there. No longer worrying, but at total peace for eternity.